Today, I am going to talk about the big three, but not the big three as you know it, but rather this big three, the big three of tropes. Tropes is a topic that has plenty of coverage, and the keen-eyed among you might have asked,
what are they?
Tropes might be a little bit of an overdone topic in the online space, but I have a new angle to bring to the table, which involves these three tropes, which are the pervert, the high school, and...
Honey, where are my
Parents.
Should have stuck with the mug jug. Out of everything in this video, this is the trope I have a bone to pick with. The pervert. A trope that has a surprising amount of depth because not all perverted characters are made equal. There are still some similarities between the characters, but there's also a lot of differences. Saying that Sanji, Mineta, and Yamai are similar characters would technically be correct, but it sort of just isn't in the grand scheme of things. So I'll break things down into some subcategories. Sanji from One Piece is more of a simp. Now, the exact slang definition of the word is hard to pinpoint, but simping is generally painted as an extreme form of infatuation, basically serving the person you like in any way possible. This is not an exact definition of what Sanji has, but it's close enough. He seems to rather be infatuated with the idea of woman. It goes to a far enough extent that he's willing to do anything just to get the attention of a female character, and hopefully they'll fall in love with him just to be probably punched in the face by Nami. 2. Mineta. Mineta is a prime example of the most common use of perversion. That is the typical teenage male pervert. The guy that's a peeping Tom and follows all the media stereotypes of the word. He probably uses binoculars to look out a window at some point. It is by far the most overused version, being used in most shonen anime. Black Clover, Naruto, My Hero Academia, Hunter x Hunter, which surprised me. The list goes on. On that note, I want to discuss an outlier to prove a point. When I thought about Yamai from Komi Can't Communicate, I realized that she's used in a very different way to the previous two categories. On the surface, it seems that she's almost some sort of yandere. Deres are names for female character tropes in anime. Yandere is used to describe an overly possessive character, which raises the question, is Sanji a yandere? An important thing to realize, most of the time they don't simply act the way that you'd expect and see in most other shows. The character is genuinely problematic. The character almost kills the vibe of the show entirely, and I don't know how I feel about that. I also have to question if it comes into conflict with my final points. It is such an easy opportunity to set up a character redemption arc using this trope, but it just doesn't happen because I can't think of many shows where a perverted character has been redeemed. I do have one example, which would probably be Steins Gate. That could perhaps be for another video.
Honey, where are my
Parents.
Where are the parents? Seriously. Where are they? In every anime, there is at least one dead parent or one that is just cripplingly bad. Yes, it's usually the father. Yes, I will use a milk joke. I'll get to you in a minute, Gendo. The only reason a lot of anime characters have no parents is simply because parents add complications to the story, and that's annoying to deal with. Oftentimes, when they do get used, they are used as a quick, dirty tool to progress the story in some way.
Need a backstory to motivate a character.
Dead parents.
Need a reason that your character has a lot of issues.
You disappoint me.
Emotional damage!
I'm going to go straight to the top with this one. Gendo Ikari from Evangelion is the quintessential example of how not to be a parent. This is coming from someone who is definitely not a parent. I will make one concise point about him. He affirms Shinji once or twice in the entire run of Eva, but very weakly. On the other hand, he has a shameless attachment to Rei, acting as something of a parent for her, but not Shinji. If Gendo was cold to everyone, it would be a lot more understandable, but he shows that he is capable of loving. This makes him the pinnacle example of how not to parent and just how to be a really crappy person.
However, good parents can be an anime. A great example of this is Clannad.
This is seen in Tomoyo's dad, who isn't particularly good, but he decided to stick around, and that counts for something. He tried the best that he could. But particularly Akio ended up playing the biggest parental role in the show, and he was a massive influence on Tomoyo, and even pushed him through some of the most soul-crushing moments in the show. In fact, often in place of parents, role models are extremely commonplace. My Hero Academia does a great job of making All Might a good role model. All Might fuels the hope in Midoriya, representing what he could achieve himself. He is a symbol and all that. I would like to point out that as a trope, Where Are My Parents is much more complex than the perversion trope. It's really hard to come up with a motivation for a character when there isn't already an environmental factor to provide that motive. For example, characters like Izuku become the #1 hero Midoriya, or Eren kill all the Titans Jaeger are motivated by their environments. So it can be done. It may be hard to write a story with parents and the drama factor of a character not having parents.
I see. So that's why you're here. Yeah.
Is pretty enticing. But honestly, I'd just like to see an anime where they have both parents of the character. Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes, no. Yeah, fair enough. High school. Honestly, I am glad that the high school trope exists. As an 18-year-old in high school who is currently making a YouTube video rather than studying for his history exam tomorrow, I can relate to the trope to a certain effect. But the main point that I'm trying to make is that if you're an adult, the trope isn't there for you. Most anime that are widely successful are aimed at adolescent teenagers. It can still be annoying, sure, but think about it. High school is relatable to teenagers. They spend almost every day of their lives there. It grounds the anime in something that every teenager can relate to. The boring monotony of going to school every day. A universal activity that every child has to go through. Being able to relate to your favorite characters based on the fact that you both have to deal with that part of life is extremely appealing and a comforting idea. Furthermore, high school is a formative period of your life. Komi Can't Communicate is, once again, a good example. It actively shows that these are the formative years of the characters. The main story beat is that Komi has extreme anxiety and is learning to deal with it. Or Clannad, which uses high school to start the story, but by the end all of the characters are out of high school. This kind of makes me realize something, because I have personally never really cared about the fact that most anime is set in high school. But the problem is, a lot of people who watch anime are adults, and what is not relatable to adults anymore? High school.
So, if high school as a trope itself isn't the problem, what is?
This is the thing. There isn't. I originally was going to say that high school is a problematic trope because, like, it enables other tropes and stuff, and that's bad. And yeah, I guess it is, but honestly, the pros outweigh the cons in this one. Yes, high school may be an overdone setting, but there are a lot of anime that greatly benefit from this setting, purely because of the fact that the creators no longer have to spend time developing an entirely new world, an entirely new setting, and an entirely new grounding for all of their characters. It just has all of that implied. So the bottom line is, and my bottom line is, thank goodness that the high school trope exists. So many anime would suck without it. Get a little closer. I have a very particular trope that I need to discuss before this wraps up. I'll break it down. The trope involves hitting the subscribe button, making the confetti happen on the like button, and my favorite step, watching this video.